Good afternoon, everyone. I am Saili Thakur. Wish you all a very happy Diwali and a prosperous New Year. On behalf of Women Members Excellence Committee of ICAI, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to Yashaswini and Idol series. Yashaswini and Idol is a Wednesday series of programs conducted by WMEC for the Women Chartered Accountants and by the Women Chartered Accountants. The series is an extension of Sky High Symposium, which concluded its 100 episodes. It is one of the committee's initiatives to not only disseminate information to women members on technical updations and non technical skills, but also to empower and inspire women members to come to the forefront and realize their verbal skills at public forum. Now, I like to introduce our first speaker for the session, Rupali Shah. Rupali Shah, a chartered accountant and CFA, has nearly a decade of experience in strategic finance and consultancy. As head of finance, she led a successful business transformation and achieving significant growth. Rupali excels in financial modeling, strategic insights, and supporting fundraising initiatives. So, Rupali, welcome you and over to you.
Thank you so much, Saili, for the detailed introduction on Yashaswini and also myself. I would like to speak about valuation of startups. I've chosen this as my, my topic for the day is because it's such an opaque industry. Startups by itself plus valuation of startups always seems to be a very big question mark for most of the professionals who do not understand why a particular startup, which is probably loss making or non revenue generating, is also able to fetch sky high valuations and get a lot of funding from a lot of notable investors in the investor community, so to say. The likes of huge big names in the PEVC ecosystem, from Tiger Global to KKR to a lot of homegrown VCs as well, right? Now the idea of speaking on this matter is uh, to bring out more transparency into how this system works, having worked in the startup ecosystem for more than 4 5 years, and also have worked in the consultancy on the transaction advisory side, valuation side for another 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years. So adding up to a decade of experience, as I mentioned. So yeah, this is the reason why I chose this topic. I really hope you guys find it very interesting and insightful to know more and more about how startups are being valued uh, today in our ecosystem. So let me start first of all with what are the different approaches. I'll just quickly touch base on these, assuming most of you have some or the other background on how startups are being valued and what are the different typical methodologies for valuing businesses as a whole. So when you talk about valuation, of course, there are a lot of considerations you start with. First, being what is the purpose of valuation? If it is under a particular regulation and the regulation already defines how the valuation is to be carried out, you cannot deviate from that, right? So these things become very important when you start a valuation project. You need to clearly define the purpose of valuation. Now, in case of startups, more often than not, the reason for valuing a startup would be ideally you are one would be you are investing in the startup, or second would be if you are an auditor of a PE or a VC, which was the case when I was working with Grant Thornton. We had a lot of PEs and VCs as our clients, audit clients, and obviously a typical auditor cannot really speak or comment on the impairment of a particular investee company, right? Essentially because there's no way to evaluate the valuation of that company from their standpoint. So again, it comes back to the valuation team. Now, how would you typically evaluate a startup from valuation point of view? Is you look at the different valuation methodologies that are submitted to you, either by the investee company, mostly by the investee company, or by the VC or PE who has hired you, right? So you will have a valuation report. Typically they'll detail out the different valuation approaches and methodologies that are at the behest, at the option, and why they particularly chose a typical, uh, a specific valuation method to value that specific company. Okay, I'll again give a brief background. There are three types of approaches. First approach being the cost approach. Simply put, cost approach is the value of the balance sheet or the net asset value, what you would call, of a company in simple financial parlance. This is not the intrinsic value of the company, but this you can assume to be the base or the bare minimum value of the company that you're valuing. Again, going back to the purpose, your purpose will never be to value the bare minimum value of the company. You will want to find out the intrinsic value, because if I am investing in a company, the investing company will definitely ask for the fair value. Second option is to go for the income based method, which is again discounting your cash flow. So you take a projection or a business plan from the management of the company, and they tell you, okay, we are growing at XYZ pace, we are going to double up, triple up in so many years, this is going to be my profitability. They'll draw up a nice P&L balance sheet. You discount back the cash flows at the accurate cost of capital and derive at a value. This again is an acceptable, widely accepted, in fact, method, but not the most recommended method, I would say. Third method, or the third approach rather, is the market based approach. Excuse me. Third approach is the market based approach, where you use the multiples or the attributes of the market, what is happening in the market right now, presently, to attribute value to the company that you're valuing, the investing company, so to say, or the target company. Different methods under the market approach are: one is the comparable transaction method, another is the comparable companies method. Comparable transactions method would be, for example, if Nika is valued at, now Nika is listed, of course, so then that falls under the listed company different parameters. But yeah, the if it was unlisted, because I valued comparable company and it was unlisted. So if Nika is unlisted and if it is being valued at, say, 4 or 5x its GMV, then the methodology for somebody like Purple or maybe MyGlam, they will come to you saying, okay, we also deserve this kind of multiple. If that deal has happened in the last few months, that becomes the most appropriate benchmark for you, because you understand, okay, at this multiple, MyGlam or say Plum or, for example, Purple will have a buyer. Now, of course, when you look at startups or these target companies, the underlying theme in all of these would be that we are different. There will always be a differentiation factor that the founders will come and pitch to you, right? Now, if tomorrow, if I say Nike and Purple are same, Purple's founder is going to tell me, no, we are not. There's a lot of difference, right? But prima facie, it seems like we are the same, right? So back then, Nika was foraying into, say, offline stores. Purple was completely online. Nika had some private brands or in-house brands, as what we would call it. Purple had none of those. So the mix of the brands, the mix of the products that are available on your platform, the mix of your distribution channel, all of those matter a lot when you're getting into valuing a company, right? So that is when you will look at the comparable transaction method or comparable companies method and apply some premium or discount based on your evaluation or differentiation, excuse me, on the way your target company functions versus how the comparable company or the transaction has happened. This is the underlying theme for all sorts of valuation, right? Even when you do a DCF, for that matter, and if you do not have a comparable company, you will always look for a set of companies which will sum up to what your company is providing today, so that you get a sense of where the valuation should land. You should have a range in your mind, because at the end, market is what is going to drive your valuation or your price. If you tomorrow quote a price or a value to a company or a target, and if there are no takers for that company at that price, that is not the intrinsic value, because market knows what is the actual value of the business, right? So you need to evaluate a lot on relative basis when you're valuing startups. Now this is the basic background of how you would go about it and what are the basic methods. Why are we speaking specifically about valuation of startups and not businesses today? Is because startups have their own unique challenges. When you speak about say data or a lot of other things comparables, as I told you, there are a lot of things that are to be stitched in when you want to actually when you want to be able to value a startup. It is not just as straightforward that okay, if I want to value Britannia, I know the value of HUL, Nestle, la la la, I know the differentiation factor, I will just apply some premium discount, beta, alpha, and I will get the, I know the ROC, I know the cash flow, this, that, and I will get to at least some reasonable, with some reasonable accuracy, I'll be able to predict the value. Sorry. In case of startups, that is not the case. More often than not, the startup that you're valuing will be extremely unique. Nykaa and Purple were still very close comparables, but when you look at different companies, if tomorrow you're asked to value Book My Show, how are you going to value it? Sorry. There are some elements of Book My Show on Paytm, but again, Paytm has a very different ecosystem of its own, and the the ticketing bit of it is a subset of the entire gamut of services that it's providing, right? So anytime you go to value a startup, you're going to face this one problem, that it is going to be extremely unique. Finding comparables is going to be extremely difficult because of the uniqueness of the business, right? And that's why it's a startup. It is highly valued because they're trying to maybe create a new category, right? Or they're trying to break the norm which is already existing in an industry. Probably they're trying to make or build a new industry altogether, right? So in these situations, it's very difficult to find comparable companies. So that's one classic challenge that you'll face. Second question, or the second major issue, is going to be the lack of data. We as CAs always look at the financial data as sacrosanct, as the basis of our valuation. And you'll be surprised to know that even the financial data at these startup level is extremely difficult to find. Something as simple as sales may not be a reliable matrix, right? Because of the way the the startups are actually accounting for their sales. I came across a startup. They would book sales as soon as the order is confirmed. So even though I don't have the inventory in my warehouse today, as of 30th of October, for example, if the client has confirmed to me the order, I will place, I will book it as a revenue without even placing order for the inventory. Forget the whole value addition that I'm going to do at my warehouse. That adds to it, right? But I don't even have the raw material in my system. So these are the actual ground level challenges that you'll face when you're valuing startups. So there's extreme lack of data. Whatever data is available, either first of all it's missing or it might be unreliable, right? So you'll have to streamline the data that you get. You'll have to ask very specific questions. You'll probably have to explain to the management what is it that you're looking for, right? And this, I'm talking about the financial data. There are a lot of other matrices that you would want to know. As I mentioned, GMV being another matrix. It's not even audited, so then there's no head and tail to it, right? Nobody audits it, and people just report whatever is being internally reported without any cross check or verification of that. So lack of data is the second challenge. Third challenge is no visibility on profitability, right? Of course, you will get a business plan, but in most of the cases, the management is extremely optimistic about their business, right? So you'll have to tone it down as per your understanding of the business. So as professionals, you'll have to literally sit down with the team, with the management, not only management, maybe the core team, with the leadership team, try to understand what they're trying to build. Ask them how they, each leader, by they I mean each leader of each vertical, maybe the sales head, the marketing head, the tech head, if it is a tech company, definitely tech head, also the finance head, how each of these head of departments are viewing the company or what according to them is the vision and mission of the company. You'll have to collate all these finer qualitative aspects of the business to understand what the founder is trying to build and what is the value proposition, where is the value unlocking happening in future, right? So business plan is one, but you'll have to go beyond the numbers. I know, coming from the CA fraternity, it is really difficult for me. I found it a little difficult to look beyond numbers, right? And that is where I actually garnered a lot of interest in it, because a couple of times I failed to understand what the founder was trying to do. Classic example was Pratilipi. I never thought it would get the valuation that it did, but Sequoia invested in them at a much higher valuation than WEH Ventures, which was our audit, which was our client for audit back then, right? So we, or maybe I, as a CA or a finance professional, have found it very difficult to transition beyond looking at the numbers. But there are times you'll have to collate these qualitative aspects to look beyond the numbers to actually understand what they're trying to build, and then marry it to the business plan that is given to you. Tune it down or up. More often than not, it is going to be down, to understand where the company is going to land, and then you will have to chalk out the visibility on profitability yourself, because at the end of the day, it is the money which is coming in that is going to add value to the business, and not just other metrics that are key, that they keep posting, right? Like the percentage market share, the NMV growth, all of that is very good to look at. At the end of the day, if my business is not generating positive cash flows, I'm burning my equity. In short, right? So you'll have to build that visibility on your own, and then try to estimate the timelines to positive cash flows, and then get an idea on what the value should be. Last but not the least, there's a lot of subjectivity and potential for bias, when that is another very big challenge when you come to valuing a startup, right? So yeah, how I would term it, again giving the same example of Pratilipi, let me quote the same example where I have failed, right? Over there, I really thought that a company, I don't know if you guys know what Pratilipi does, but again, to take a step back and give you a background on it, they're a platform which allows you to post regional content in regional languages. So you may, as a housewife, you have a hobby of, say, writing poems. You're a Bengali, you want to post it in Bengali language, you can do that. Similarly, if you like writing anecdotes, maybe riddles, maybe stories in whichever language, Gujarati, Marathi, Rajasthani, they have a they have an array of sorry, languages in which you can post your content. It becomes it becomes proprietary to Pratilipi, and then you can keep posting and getting more and more, more and more followers. I always thought that anybody who is a writer wouldn't want to do this, right? Why would I, as a writer, give my content for free to somebody like this? And what is the big deal if I cannot write in Hindi or English? I can always translate my Bengali to English on Google Translate. I can always translate my, say, Gujarati to Hindi on Google Translate. So why so much of valuation should be given to a platform like this? And I didn't understand how this is going to be monetized going forward. But this has played out very beautifully. Indian market, or the Indian ecosystem, has so many languages, regional languages within itself, that it has actually picked up so well. And as I mentioned, I think Sequoia did invest in them a big check. They wrote a big check to Pratilipi back then, because they had proven time and again, year on year, that there was more traction coming in on their platform. More and more users were willingly posting their content on the platform, and Pratilipi could actually use it, or at least it had the rights to use it and make, say, a comic book out of it, or make, say, any publication. They could publish anything that was being published on their website as their own, right? And then monetize it. But back then, when I was valuing it, and when we were very small as a company, sorry, when Pratilipi was very small as a company, I could not, imagine how they would transition to monetizing this. I understood they might have a lot of content. I understood there may be, a traction for this kind of platform. But I fail to understand why somebody like Meta could not just replicate it, or why couldn't Google replicate it, India being such a big market for them, and how would they finally monetize this content, right? Because again, regional, if it is Gujarati or if it is Bengali, Bengali is very restricted again. How many Bengalis will you find throughout India versus in Bengal, right? So then I thought the play would not turn out so well, but it did, right? The key lies in understanding beyond your biases. Going back to another challenge, or last challenge that I faced in that I've seen in valuation of businesses, is the subjectivity and potential for bias. Now, for example, if I have to, another example is, if I have to value an edtech company, I will always carry the bitter taste from Byju's incident to value another startup in edtech, right? So these are the subjectivity aspects, or the potential bias that we as humans bring on the table while valuing businesses, and especially startups, because these are not traditional businesses, right? So these are some of the major challenges that you will face when you have to value a startup. But now, breaking beyond this, sorry, how will you go beyond this and actually value a startup? If somebody comes to you that, okay, please, Sally, can you please value this startup for me? I want to probably invest in this company. How will you evaluate, or how will you see through the valuation of the company if it is already given to you, right? So first things first, most common and widely used matrix is the comparable transaction method, right? You will obviously want to look into the market. What was the last transaction made either in the same company or in a very close comparable company, right? First amongst these again would be if the company itself has raised funds. If last year you raised funds at say 100 crore valuation, and you were say doing a revenue of 50 crores, you raised at 2x valuation. Simple, right? Now this year, if you have done say 100 crores of revenue, and if you're asking 5x valuation, what is the reason for that? Of course, you've doubled on your growth, but probably that was your growth trajectory even before that, right? So you'll have to evaluate what was the last round into the business. Why was it at a particular or multiple, and why it deserves a premium or discount now when it is coming to you for fundraise, right? Second would be, then if the company has not raised funds, then you look at the close comparable. Again, I will quote, for example, if Uber was to raise funds, you can look at the last funds raised by Ola if you don't have a comparable for, or if Uber has not raised any funds for the last few years, right? Similarly, if now that Swiggy is going to get listed, sorry, Swiggy is going to expect multiple that Zomato is getting. Obviously, for it being such a close comparable, and Swiggy has not raised any funds in very recent past, right? So that's how you look for very close comparables. You adjust premium or discount. Of course, now Swiggy may not get as much of premium as Zomato commands, because Zomato already has a lot of share of the market. It has turned profitable by now already, and Blinkit has worked very beautifully for them. They haven't been Swiggy hasn't been able to replicate the Blinkit model on Instamart for them. So of course you'll have to tone it down to that extent. But your benchmark or your base would again always be Zomato when you're valuing Swiggy. So this is how comparable companies work, especially when they're so comparable. And then the third most appropriate or the third methodology to go to would be your DCF. Because if you really do not have any comparables, if the company has not raised any funds, then the most logical thing to do is do a DCF, take from the management what is their business plan, what will be the positive cash flows in next 5 to 10 years, ideally 5 years. Within 5 years, if you're not able to get reach to profitability, it's a very big question mark, right? Sorry. So typically a 5 year period would be your DCF and then a terminal value. For all of this, you will again have to evaluate what will be the discounting rate, the rate at which you will discount the cash flows. Usually, we use the EV. We value at the EV level or the enterprise level. That is That's not irrespective, but we would discount at the weighted average cost of capital, for which you will have to define what will be the steady state debt to equity ratio in your company. You will have to define what will be steady state cost of debt of your company. Cost of debt would obviously be net of taxes, because you enjoy benefit of taxes when you are borrowing, right? So you'll have to give that benefit for the when you're trying to value it, or when you're figuring out the cost of debt. And cost of equity. Cost of equity is another tricky part of working out weighted average cost of capital. It's a measure of market premium and beta of your company, risk free rate. Risk free rate you can easily find on any government long term GSEC, right? So ideally you are done with your risk free rate. You will have to Market premium is something that again you can easily find out, but beta of your company is very specific to your company. You should not even rely on the industry beta, right? So where do you get this from? You will have to again do a lot of research. You find comparable companies in this space, at least to track the beta of the company. Again, if you don't find anything and if you're in a hurry and you just want to you know get a rough estimate, you can go to Ashwat Damodaran's industry betas. They He keeps posting it, the most recent one for the industry that your company operates in, and that's how you work on the cost of your equity. Once you have cost of equity, you have cost of debt, and you have debt to equity ratio, all of this steady state, you will have a weighted average cost of capital. You can discount your cash flows based on WACC and reach an EV value. Once you've reached EV value, you'll have to adjust for cash and cash equivalents, all the non-operating items as we call it. So that would also include your and also your debt. So all your majorly cash and cash equivalents, if you have any investments which are not operating in the nature, or if you do not need those for running your businesses, so to say, then you will have to adjust for those investments also. And again, debt, because you're working out the value of equity at the equity level and not at enterprise level. So what you will get when you're discounting based on back is your enterprise value and not your equity value. So this adjustment is very important, very critical, right? And that's how you get EV and then how you get equity value. I would always recommend doing some sort of sense check on the implied multiples that you get. Even if you're relying on, say, DCF, you would want to look at loose comparables in the industry, if not exact comparables or close comparables, to understand what is the implied multiple your companies are trading at, or your industry is trading at, right? So this is how you can conclude your valuation exercise and understand what is the value range at least, right? Now I would like to reach to the most critical part of today's conversation, and that comes from a study by McKinsey. Interestingly, they posted a detailed article or a blog by stating how to build a unicorn. Okay, it's a very bold statement and a very bold article when you're writing how to build a unicorn, but it was quite famous. It was well taken, and I picked up some very important points from that article to share with you guys today, and that is the considerations for valuation, right? Or if to make an investment decision, or to actually write off or not write off an investment, right? If you're advising on that part, what are the key considerations that you must definitely consider before putting a value on a company, right? So the first is team. There may be times where you are asked to value a company which doesn't even have revenue. So pre-revenue, what we call as a pre-revenue startup. This company doesn't have a revenue itself. Now, how are you going to value this company? Sorry, excuse me. A lot of it happens in say tech ecosystem, tech companies, when they are still in their beta stage, they're still piloting, and they don't know where they will land, right? But they have some vision in their mind, they have some mission in their mind, and they come to you, okay, that this is what my company is, this is what the idea is, and this is what my pilot is, but I'm still piloting, I don't have any revenue. How are you going to value me, right? Or whether you are going to value me or not, or at least will you bookmark me as a company whom you want to track, right? So what qualitative aspects can you consider? One is team. Who are the founders of the company, right? Now, if the founders come from a very notable background, if they have achieved something in their life academically, right? Or if they are uh, uh, if it is a founder who has already delivered a very successful startup, you will have more comfort in investing in their startup. For example, if tomorrow Dipender Goyal starts another startup, we would be very comfortable, betting on it, right? Because we've seen him deliver results on Zomato. If tomorrow Nikhil Kamath was to start a company, we would definitely want to participate in it or place huge value to it because we've seen him deliver once, right? So if there is a past track record of the founder, that helps a lot. Secondly, if the founders come from very rich background, say IITians, IIMs, or Ivy League, have attended Ivy League colleges, and then again you get some premium to the valuation. You have more faith in them delivering because excuse me, I'm sorry, not because uh, they are they're brilliant on the books, right? But because they've gone through the grill, they were determined enough to go through it and excel in that environment. Now, if tomorrow the same person is put in a situation where in the business, if he has to go through so much of grill, he has to go through a lot of hassles of actually building a business from scratch, will he survive? The chances of that person surviving are much higher because that person has already survived in very high pressure study environment, right? Secondly, that person comes with a lot of networking. Again, they already know CXOs and who's who of the industry, so that brings in a lot of rich network at their behest, not only to bring in more capital but also to bring in more experience, more learnings, right? So all of these aspects play a major role when you're looking at the team who is actually building the company, right? Second, again, would be TAM. What is the target addressable market? What is the market size that they are targeting? What is at your behest to conquer, right? Now, if the TAM itself is very small, you might not be so enticed, but in India, more often than not, that will not be a challenge, right? But you would want to look at what is your addressable market, how much of that portion, what slice of that market are you targeting or are you considering in your valuation? If your TAM is 100 and you are assuming that you're going to hold 100% or 90% share, now that is also too ambitious to assume, right? Because as you grow, you will have more competitors coming into the market. So that is another consideration you'll have to look at. That is what is the addressable market, what is it that your company can scale to, right? And what will be the steady state situation for your company. Third is the timing. Of course, it's very important to look at the timing. Some idea may be beautiful, brilliant, but is it the right time to execute? Sorry. And right time maybe not only that you're too early, you may be too late also, right? Now today if somebody wants to start a quick commerce, it's too late to do it, right? Zomato realized this very early on. It was too late for them to start a quick commerce. They bought Blinkit. They could have built it from scratch, but why do that? You're too late entering into the market. Buy an existing customer, an existing player, right? So you will have to time your launch, you'll have to time your move into the market and stick to the plan, but also be agile enough to understand when the environment changes. You will have to change your business plan. There are so many classic examples of companies which started as one business but pivoted to another and did beautifully in the next segment that they picked up. So you will have to evolve with market. You'll have to keep on looking at what is the environment around you. Sorry, right? And the last but not the least is the traction. Now, how do you take traction into your consideration? Is you'll have to look for clear evidence of growth for your company. If it is a tech company, you would want to look at how many, what are the active users, what are the daily active users, how many number of downloads, how many visits on your page, how many registrations on your page. Now, how many people are visiting versus how many people are registering, how many people are probably adding to the cart, and how many are actually placing an order. So this whole customer funnel you will want to evaluate. We coming from the finance background unfortunately do not get direct access or direct view to this on our financials. We have to literally ask for it separately, but it's very important part of the evaluation process because you really need to know what is your CAC, which is cost of acquiring a customer, what is the LTV, what is the conversion ratio, what is the repeat ratio, what is the churn ratio, how many people are you attracting to your page, but how many of them are actually repeat customers, right? Because the marketing spend, ideally, in the most idealistic scenario, should go towards creating a brand value and bringing newer customers to your page. Because if I've bought a particular brand, I know that brand. Now there is no brand brand value that is being created through looking at new ads. But if I'm already aware of the brand and I'm still not going back to your page, that means something is missing. Did I just click on your ad because it showed okay today there's a 70% 80% discount? Then I'm only looking for bargains as a customer. So you really want to know if the customer is coming back to you, and if that customer is coming back, is he or she coming back for deep discounts, or is he or she really a loyal customer, right? Because loyalty is something that defines your brand value, and that is what you're trying to build, especially in the consumer space, right? And that is what all of these D2C companies are singing, right? They're singing the same song, that we're spending so much and we're burning so much because we're trying to create the brand. But how do you evaluate the brand value? Sorry. So this is one way of evaluating, looking at the marketing spends and the marketing data, the customer behavior on your platform, right? Another example, if you're in the B2B space, could be on the metric ton, on the capacity usage. There are so many metrics beyond, there are so many matrices beyond the classic P&L balance sheet which you would want to look at, which give you clear evidence on the market share that is being captured. Sorry. So if today I were to evaluate a company which is loss making, but I can see the popularity of this brand is growing manifold, then I have a lot of comfort, maybe writing a check to that brand, because I see that the marketing spends or the burns are actually giving me some results or will give me some results in future, right? So that is the kind of vision that you will have to have when you are evaluating startups. Of course, the technical methodologies are there, approaches are there, a lot of material is there, out there on the internet for you to understand what are the numerical adjustments that you will have to do. But the reason why I took up this topic is to actually tell you that there are so many considerations beyond all of these numbers that you will have to look at. Like classic example was team. Another example was the traction that you will have to track outside of your financial statements, right? So these are the considerations you should consider, you will have to consider, rather, if you want to become a successful business valuer for startups going forward. Sorry. Um, One more thing I wanted to add. Now, this was basically my presentation or my talk on, what are the challenges, what are the approaches, what are the best methodologies, and the different considerations when you're looking at valuation of startup. One thing that I would want to, use this platform to communicate is today, as we sit, the authorities who we deal with, be it income tax authorities or be it SEBI or so many, authorities that we deal with day in day out, all of these today are looking at these valuations with much closer look, right? They're not accepting a signed valuation report as it is as the value of the company. So tomorrow, if you want to value a company for an IPO, don't expect SEBI to just accept the report that you have you have submitted. Right? It goes much beyond that. Very recently, there was a company. Um, they are in the process of listing. Actually, I can't name it, but the advisors told us that if you raise any funds before the IPO or before filing the DRHP, then that would have a significant impact on the valuation of IPO. Earlier, this was not the case. If you raised funds maybe 6 months, 1 year before the IPO date, you could easily, on your road shows or otherwise, just circumvent the whole pre-IPO deal that you would have done, the private round you would have done. But now, today, not only the investors are more aware, but also SEBI is more aware. They are going to ask you questions. If you were anyway going for IPO, why did you raise funds? If you raise funds, what is the exit plan that you've promised to your investors in this pre-IPO round, right? So these are the questions that are coming from regulatory authorities, which were never coming earlier, right? I attended a seminar. Which was being given by very high authority in valuations field, and he was speaking to the income tax officer. Okay, for one of the valuations that he had given. This is a big four partner I'm talking about. He said this is the first time in his career he entered a hearing where the income tax officer had come with a printout of the entire valuation report. So typically you submit the due diligence report and the valuation report. He said such a thick report he had read it, he had highlighted, and he had penned down queries with sticky notes. He said literally this was the scene, and I had to answer all the questions. Every line that I had written in the report was being questioned by the authorities, and I had to provide justification for not only the numbers but every evaluation or everything that I have mentioned on my report. So, I want to use this forum to tell you all that valuation as a profession is becoming more and more serious. It's being looked at not only by investors but by the larger audience, sorry, including government authorities with with much stricter notes, and they are tracking everything that is happening around the company for you to value or not value it, right? So, and that is also a reason why more and more big fours and bigger firms are not accepting audits, or they're not signing audits by audit report by startups just to sign it off. Even the auditors are becoming more aware of the risk that they're carrying when they're signing off reports of these startups, because a lot of time it is very hanky panky. And same thing for valuation reports. So it's getting more and more serious. But going forward, I feel there's a lot of potential in this field, and a lot of specialization is required, which comes only with a lot of experience and a lot of interactions with these types of companies, and you learn over the period of time. So that was my time, guys. This is what I wanted to uh, transfer as a knowledge to y'all. This is what I have learned throughout my journey. I'm sorry I could not arrange for a presentation and more specifics on the numbers, but I really hope that this was helpful to all of you, and this will probably make you more curious to deep dive into valuations and into startups going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Krupali ma'am, for your contribution on this topic. There are no questions, so I hope all the attendees have understood this topic very much well. You have covered many topics on the valuation, different approaches, purpose of valuation, giving example of Manika and Purple made it understand the topic in better way, as well as the challenges faced by valuation of startup, non-availability of data, non-reliability of data, profitability. Potential is always a subjective topic. So you have given a very good example of Zomato and Swiggy, as well as Pratilipi, you have already mentioned, and also gave reference of the article How to Build Unicorn. It made us understand this topic in a very better manner, and looking forward to get some statistics from your side as well in next meets also. So
Sure.
yes, so I get this opportunity to thank you for your contribution and giving us the knowledge on this topic, and sincere thanks for your presence, and it made it a worthy session for us. I also wish everyone Shubh Deepavali and a New Year to every attendees and the panelists. So I hand over the session to CA Shaili Thakur, and thank you so much for your presence. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maryada. Thank you, Rupali, for a good insight in startup valuation. Now we will move to our second speaker of today's session. She is Sheetal Sethi, chartered accountant, is a versatile person with over 15 years of experience. She has empowered over 15,000 individuals through webinars and workshops for top corporates, and as a renowned German educator, her dedication to education and leadership has made her a respected figure in both the financial sector and the wider community. So we welcome you, Sheetal, and over to you.
Yes, thank you, Saili. It was really wonderful. I would like to thank our institute also for giving us this opportunity and this Yashashwini, this quote, this thing what you have come up with. So it's a wonderful experience. We had a speaker with us, Krupali, and I was hearing her entire session. So on valuation for startups and all, she gave wonderful insights and like So thank you again for this. So our today's topic is I would like to share my PPT. 1 second. So today we're going to talk about power of affirmations and sleep talk. So first we're going to talk about on power of affirmation. So is my presentation visible? Can you all see this? Saili, is my presentation visible? Yeah, and am I audible? Yes. You muted.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
It's visible.
It is visible and audible, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. So let's understand what are affirmations. Like every day we make some or the other statements, and we do talk so much, and how affirmations can actually help in our personal and our professional life. So let us understand. Okay. So we have this. Inner belief, and or we have this inner thought, and how it can, our inner thoughts can shape our life. Okay. So do we often do you tell this to yourself often? I am terrible at this. I will never be good enough. Okay, I'm never going to get through this workload, or I always make mistakes under pressure, or I don't have what it takes to pass this certification. Or you might even say that I am bad at presentations, I can't explain things clearly, there is too much of competition, I'll never stand out, or I will never meet this client expectations, or I'm terrible at networking. Oh my god, I can't go and network, I'm not going to socialize. I'm not good enough to lead a team, or I don't have time for my personal life. I'm busy working. I am always behind on industry updates. I don't have enough time for updates. So, do these statements resonate to you all? Yeah. So, most of us have these thoughts, correct? Whether we realize it or not, these are all negative affirmations. Okay. So, every time we say something like this, so we are subtly telling our mind that this is true, and then your mind will say yes, this will happen, tatastu. Okay, sort of. So we are shaping up our mind. So can we just have a little shift? Can we just flip? We were seeing the tail side of the coin, or let's see the head side. Okay, let us flip. So instead of saying can we have this kind of statements, I can learn and improve, or I have the potential to succeed. Or probably you could even say, I'm organized and capable of managing my workload efficiently, one step at a time. Or you could say, I learn from every experience and I perform calmly and accurately under pressure. Correct? So this statement sounds nice, but we're not used to it. Correct? Now imagine if this were flipped into positive affirmations, I can learn and improve, or I have potential to succeed. The shift in mindset is powerful. Okay. So, what are we going to learn in this session? We're going to learn how to harness this power through positive affirmations, why they work, how they work, and how you can start using them effectively in our life. Okay. So these affirmations can be powerful tool for chartered accountants to overcome self-doubt, manage stress, reinforce your strength both in professional and personal development. So today I'm going to tell you all a short story, a very quick story. Okay. Imagine two chartered accountants with similar skills, experience, and roles within their company. So we'll call them employee A and employee B. So, employee A constantly thinks to himself, I am not good enough for this promotion. I am sure someone else will get it. Every day, this thought keeps popping up, making him second guess his ability and work about the future. He avoids taking on new challenges. He's afraid that he will fall short. Over time, his confidence takes a big hit and his performance starts to decrease. So, without realizing his negative thoughts, these negative affirmations are shaping his reality. On the other hand, there is employee B. So employee B approaches her work a little differently. She is no less busy and she is not even less under pressure, unlike similar pressure like him. But she uses positive affirmation daily. She says to herself, I am capable and ready for new opportunities. I deserve to be organized for my hard work. Every time doubt creeps in, she reminds herself of her strengths, stays open to challenges, and actively seeks ways to grow up. So, what happens? Employee B feels more confident, get noticed for her positive and proactive attitude, and is well prepared when opportunities arise. Her positive affirmations help reinforce her self worth and align her actions with her goals. So, what are affirmations? Okay, let us understand. Okay, this is a powerful tool. I can be a super lady and I can be super powerful. But now, what are affirmations? Let us understand what are they. तो ये सब affirmations का काम क्या है? Okay, affirmations reinforce a belief by repeating it to ourselves. So now, just imagine we have heard this story. I think Amir Khan had also told this story in one of his shows when to a tree, a community keep telling or keep abusing certain words to the tree dies. And when a community circles the tree and says good words and good deeds, so the tree blossoms and gives lot of fruit. So what is this? This is the belief that you're putting it into the tree. So not only tree, the same belief we put it into ourselves also. So we replace this negative or the limiting belief with the positive belief. So instead of getting stuck on our fears or doubts, we train our minds to think positively, building a strong foundation of self belief and motivation. So think of affirmation as a positive statement, almost like a mini mission, not a mass mission, but this affirmation should be like a mission for us. So, for example, if you are preparing for an important client presentation and feeling a little nervous, a powerful affirmation could be I'm confident, clear, and capable in my presentation. Now, guys, I do this for all my presentation till date. I have mentored more than 15,000 people every time, even if I'm doing the same presentation. Okay, even if I'm doing the same topic, I have done a lot of topics, but I every before every presentation I do say this to myself: I'm confident, I'm clear, and capable in my presentation. Okay, I do see this. So now instead of repeating मुझे ये अच्छे से नहीं आता है, okay, we can say I'm fully prepared and communicate effectively with ease. So let us understand. Suppose if you want confidence and self worth, we can, instead of saying I'm not good enough for this role, try saying I am deserving of success and I have valuable skills to offer. So if you want health and wellness, instead of saying मुझे एनर्जी नहीं मिल रही है अपने रूटीन में, say I am healthy, energetic, and actively care for my body and mind. Say if you want financial abundance, instead of we chartered accountants can think negatively about financial success. So instead of saying, I'm struggling to meet my financial goals, say, I attract wealth and abundance into my life effortlessly. Money comes in effortlessly to me. You say, if you want personal goals, instead of saying, I'm too set in my ways for to change, try saying, I am open to learning, growing, and improving every day. हम अपने माइंड को ट्रेन कर सकते हैं टू सीक अपॉर्चुनिटीज, टू स्टे काम, टू कीप आवर बेस्ट इंटरेस्ट इन फोकस. Okay, we understood that. Now let us understand why affirmations. Why affirmations? Why not something else? Can we not say something else? Why affirmations? Okay, so let us understand. See, one of our biggest benefits of affirmation is that it gives us self. Okay, imagine repeating it to yourself every day. I am skilled and capable of handling any challenge. I've been doing this. Okay, before all, I have first attempt clear, and I have told this to myself before every exam of my CA, whether it was even IFRS SCCA London. During my that exam, तो मेरे पास time ही नहीं था, frankly speaking, because I had already had two kids, and it's very difficult to manage your household activities when you have in-laws and everybody, and manage the kids and give exam, study basically, no time to study. But I have told this to myself during, before preparing my exams also, before going for exams also, and I have built a positive affirmation, and this has helped even today. Whether I have any seminars also, I still give this affirmations. So it does build up self confidence. Every time when I step up out of the house, I don't forget to give affirmations to myself. Okay. Then secondly is emotional resilience. So life is full of ups and downs हमेशा आते रहते हैं. It's never going to be same day every day, especially in a professional career like us, when we have to meet deadlines, client expectations, or constant learning. So we use this affirmation: I stay calm and grounded even in tough situations. Okay, so we train ourselves to handle stress more calmly. ये स्टेटमेंट हमारे माइंड को प्रिपेयर करता है टू फेस डिफिकल्टीज with a positive attitude and making us emotionally stronger, so I can face the world. Okay. Dusra, the third one is it boosts our motivation. Okay, so you need always somebody the other to motivate yourself. So when I was a child, I was always motivated by my dad, and he used to tell me, "जा शीतल, जा जाके काम ले ले, I'm behind you." So कोई भी टेंडर साइन करना है or any work contract I have to take, he used to always tell me, "Don't worry, I am there behind you." Okay, so that motivating factor was always there. But what after he is no more? Hmm? Who is going to motivate me? So you are going to seek motivation from outside world always. Sometimes they are there with you, sometimes they're not, due to any there can be any crisis situation also, the people are not around with you. So you need to be self motivated. So I am dedicated to my goals. If you say I'm dedicated to my goals and I put in my best efforts every day. So you are motivating yourself every day. And ये करने से ये चीजें हमारे लिए मतलब this things reinforcing करना is important for us. So we shift our affirmation focus. It shifts from our focus from obstacles to possibilities, from problems to solutions. Okay, so this is very important. So I see opportunities in every situation and learn from challenges. So that is the reason our affirmations are important. Now let us understand, affirmations are important, but we are chartered accountants, correct? We would need logic. Without logic, we can't go ahead. So what is the science behind this? Okay, so to understand this, let us consider a fundamental truth. Okay, हमारे thoughts काफी powerful होते हैं. Okay, whatever we think can happen, our thoughts shape our feelings, our actions, and ultimately our reality. So when we focus on positive empowering thoughts like the ones we used in affirmations, हम अपने mind को एक नई directions दे रहे हैं. Okay, so let us understand how. What is the science behind this and how does this happen? So एक fact मैं आपको बता दूँ. So one part of our brain called a reticular activation system, that is RAS. So think of RAS as a mind's personal filter. Okay, ये filter decide करता है कि हम किस चीज पर focus करें और क्या ignore करें. So when we keep repeating a positive affirmation, our RAS tunes into things that align us with statements. So, for instance, if you're constantly saying, I attract success and new opportunities, our RAS will go on the lookout for situation, connections, or resources that can help us succeed. So, it's like our mind telling and saying to us, oh, this is important to you. Let's help you notice it more. So, if you would have seen, if you have bought a car, okay, your favorite, say BMW, so on the roads you'll only see BMW. Okay, if you are undergoing some physical condition, say women over here, all women over here, say if you're pregnant, on the road you will see only pregnant ladies. So this is what RS does. Okay, so you have to keep telling your mind, this is important to me, positive statement. Your RS will keep looking out, keep hunting for this positive statement. Then there is another concept called neuroplasticity. What does neuroplasticity do? Our brain's ability to form new neural connections, wiring. Okay, so जब हम कोई thoughts बार बार repeat करते हैं, हम अपने brain में एक new pathway, एक new connections बना रहे हैं. Okay, over time this pathway becomes stronger, making positive thinking and self belief a natural part of our mindset. That is why, after consistently using affirmation, we start to see ourselves differently, feel more confident, and take actions that reflect our belief. So, this has definitely helped me in shaping up my future. I only have to think, okay, I want this in my life. And from somewhere, I do get calls and things happen to me. So in real life, this is very important. So it helps us build our confidence. So you can say, I'm skilled, capable, and calm in all situations. This will help you prepare your self confidence. Or you can say, I handle challenges calmly and find solutions easily. So you are reducing stress. By saying this, you're reducing stress. Or you can say, I achieve my goals with dedication and determination. So you are motivating yourself, okay, especially during setbacks. So how to create effective affirmations? Okay, again, affirmations to see clear science to pata chal gaya, why it is important, we also came to know behind it. But now how to create affirmation, this is again very important. You just cannot just start saying anything. Okay, so because our brain understands certain languages, the way we talk to universe, our brain listens to it and it only understands certain pathways. Okay, so we have to use a positive language. So the first step is creating an affirmation is to use a positive language. So this may seem very simple, correct, but it is essential. So rather, instead of saying I am not stressed, so you were saying I'm not stressed, I'm positive, I'm not stressed. Okay, or you would say I am not bad at presentations. So you are positive, I'm not bad at presentations. But hey, hang out. This is not the way we say. Why? हम लोग say we are drinking tea. Okay, I always give this example to all my listeners always. So we love to drink tea, say for example, and we are making tea. After we make the tea, what do we do? Do we pour the tea as it is and we drink it? No, we take a sieve, a chalni, okay, put it on the cup, and we strain the tea. Okay, and what comes down, okay, the positive, the statements, okay, what comes down, we drink that. और चलनी में क्या रहता है, सारा कचरा, all dirt, and that we don't eat that, correct, we don't eat those tea granules. Those are all the dirt or the kachra after we strain it. So those are the negative words. Okay, so the universe don't understand negative word, it only understand positive statement. So when I say I am not stressed, तो चलनी ने क्या कर दिया, not ऊपर डाल दिया और नीचे कर दिया I am stressed, and you're drinking that I am stressed. And then you are saying I to always said I am not stressed, I am not stressed, then why am I stressed? Or you say I am not bad at presentations. So what happens, the bad remains in the chalni, what goes down is I am not, matlab I am not at presentations, means you are not good at presentations. Okay, so not to use the negative statement even in this fashion. Secondly is you speak in present tense. Why in present tense? You have to always, the universe only understands present tense language, the subconscious mind only understands the present right now. So in future, suppose if you say I will be successful, will be, so future may, we don't have any time frame, I'll be successful when. Okay, so you have to imagine I am successful now, then everything will happen. That Shah Rukh Khan's dialogue is there na, ye kainat whatever. I'm not good at dialogue, but that Shah Rukh Khan's dialogue is there, ये कायनात तुम्हें मिला देगी सब करने के लिए and all, something like that. So I am successful. You have to say, I am successful. Automatically, your subconscious mind will start attracting those kind of positive work and everything for you. Okay. Though this helps bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. So you have to always say in present tense, not future, not past. Subconscious mind and universe don't understand future tense and past tense. Okay. Then the third thing is, it has to be, your affirmations has to be personal and relevant to your own goals and values, not to somebody else's. You cannot say Aishwarya Rai is going to get more success and fame. Okay, you cannot go and say that. It has to be personal and relevant to your own goals and values. तो हम सब एक goals, हम सबके goals rather अलग अलग होते हैं. Okay, so our affirmation should reflect what is meaningful for each one of us, and each one important to our own individuality. So I am financially secure and open to new opportunities for abundance. This can be your affirmation. Okay, so this would deeply resonate to yourself. Okay, so that is important. So this is how you make. So quickly let me summarize, because this is very very important stage. People don't understand this. Positive language, do not use any no, buts, ifs and anything. Okay, use present tense. And third, it has to be personal, it has to be for yourself. So when and how to use affirmations. Okay, we understood affirmations, we understood importance of it, we understood the science behind it, we understood how to use it. Now when to use it, which is the best time to use affirmation. क्या हम कभी भी affirmations कर सकते हैं? No, it's not like that. But we need to develop a routine. Okay, क्या हम कभी भी दिन में ब्रश कर सकते हैं? यस ऑफ कोर्स कर सकते हैं, बट नो, यू हैव टू डेवलप अ रूटीन. ओके, क्या हम कभी भी लंच ले सकते हैं? ले सकते हैं. टेक्निकली देयर इज नो दिस थिंग, बट नो, यू हैव टू डेवलप अ रूटीन. Similarly, even for affirmations, you have to develop a routine. Okay, so what is the routine for your affirmations? Say morning and bedtime. So uh, early in the morning, so सबसे पहले when you get up early in the morning and when you do your routines, okay, and before your routines, if you say your affirmations, so you start your day with a positive note. So this is very important. Morning when you get up, take a notebook and start journaling down your affirmations if you want to. Okay, that practice actually helps a lot. Second is bedtime. During bedtime also, if you make affirmations, you will get good sleep, and then your subconscious mind will start processing and it will start shaping up the things for you. Okay, so either you do it in the morning times or bedtime, or you do it both the times. You can do it in the morning also and bedtime. How much time? Max 5 minutes. You don't need to really spend too much of time. Okay, then during challenging moments, so say during challenging moments also, we can use this affirmations. Like say you really stressed out and you don't know what to do, so during those challenging moments also, you can sit down and you can say, so I am prepared, confident and calm in all situations. Okay, you just say this. So this also works in visualization exercises. Okay, so when you're doing this, what you have to do is you have to visualize. You have to imagine and you have to visualize what you are saying. That really works wonders. So I would like to share this small incident. So when before doing my CA, while pursuing my CA, I was also doing my designing. Okay, I had my designing studio. So I had this corporate clients and all. So when I used to make any designs for corporates, in the night when I used to sleep, I used to imagine those designs. Okay, and पूरा imagine करती थी. I don't know how, but I used to imagine the entire designs. And next day on computer, I used to pen that down, those designs. And trust me, only those designs used to get approved, which I used to imagine it. I used to visualize it completely. So those designs, all my corporates used to take. So this has worked, okay, and I can uh, talk this with this thing, with experience. Then the next thing is you have to emphasize on consistency and repetition. So you have to आज किया है कल नहीं किया है ऐसा नहीं होता है. You have to do it repeatedly. You have to be very consistent for your affirmation. It's not that today I've done, tomorrow I've done, the day after, oh, I didn't get time and I didn't do it. So it will not work. Exercises also we have to consistently do it. If you want to say somebody wants to reduce the weight, and if you're going one day for walk or twice for walk, and then you're not doing it, and then in a weekly 2-3 times only you're going, and then you think यार मैं इतना walk करती हूँ मेरा फिर भी weight reduce नहीं हो रहा है. So no. So consistency is important. If you want any result, you need to be consistent and you need to repeatedly do this. So this is again very important that you need to do this. Okay. What are the common mistakes? Yes. So you understood everything. Okay. You all are very good listeners and you've understood everything. But still, there are some common mistakes. Okay. You want to avoid these pitfalls. So what are those common mistakes? So let's talk about few common mistakes which people do while making affirmations. Okay. So how can we avoid this? So these mistakes can slow down your progress. That's why it's important to know it. Okay, वो disclaimer होता है ना, don't do this and that, और we chartered accountants are very good at reading those disclaimers. So what are the common mistakes? Okay, the first mistake is lack of belief. Okay, मैंने तो ये सब कुछ बोल दिया, but still people would say I do not believe this. Okay, so what happens is, so if an affirmation feels too unbelievable, you won't truly believe it. Okay, you have to believe it. The solution is you start something which is believable. So for instance, you can, instead of saying I am a millionaire, and if you're not resonating it to it, you can say I am on my way to financial success. So now, so this example also I always give to people. If you're going in a restaurant with a family of friends and to a favorite restaurant, and say your favorite food is masala dosa. So you go to a restaurant, you call the waiter and you tell him, excuse me, I want to place this order, masala dosa. And everybody else is also placed the order. And what do we do after he goes? We are chatting, correct? And we just talking to each other. Do you even have this doubt कि वो मसाला डोसा लेके आएगा कि नहीं आएगा? अरे मैंने तो मसाला डोसा ऑर्डर किया है. What if he gets me cheese sandwiches? I don't like cheese sandwiches. What if he gets me that? Do you even get this belief? No, na. You are 100% sure he's going to get masala dosa. The only thing is he might get it now, or after 10 minutes, or after half an hour. Or the taste might be good or not good. But getting it is going to be there, correct? Because you've ordered for it. Similarly, when you say something to the universe or to your subconscious mind, you have to believe it. You cannot not believe it. Okay, you have to just believe the process. Trust me, I have done this in and out, and I've been doing this. I've done it for my personal goals, I've done it for my financial goals, done it for my professional goals, I've done it for my family goals, I've done it for my kids, and this has worked. You have to believe it. That's it. Then the second is inconsistency. As I told you, if you are inconsistent, ये दूसरी mistake है inconsistency. Affirmations को regularly practice करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. Okay, if you only do them occasionally, you won't see their effect. The solution is to create a routine. Okay, set a specific time in the morning and evening to practice your affirmations. And how do you practice? You say it, you write it down, or anything. Then the third thing is negative focus. Okay, तीसरी mistake is negative focus. So it's essential to ensure all affirmations are positively framed. For example, if you say, I am not stressed, what are you saying? I am stressed, not रह गया चलनी में, correct? And what came down was I am stressed. So you're still focusing on stress. Instead, reframe it positively. I am calm and relaxed. Take a deep inhalation. Inhale and exhale and say, I am calm and relaxed. So, this way, you shift your energy towards a positive direction. Okay. So this was affirmation. So for regarding affirmations, I will take the questions little lately. Okay, little later. Let me just introduce you sleep to your sleep talk. Now for sleep talk, affirmations were very important, and that's the reason I took affirmations before, and later I am taking sleep talk. तो sleep talk के बारे में बहुत सारे questions होंगे दिमाग में. Okay, कि what is sleep talk? What exactly is sleep talk? And is it something you are murmuring into your sleep? Is this sleep talk? No, it is not that. Murmuring something into your sleep is medical condition, and that needs to be addressed by doctors, not me. I'm not a doctor. But sleep talk is not something like that. Sleep talk is another scientific method to change your behavior pattern. Okay, yes, rightly said, to change your behavior pattern. So what are we going to see in sleep talk? The science of sleep talk. Okay, what is the science behind sleep talk? You identify behavioral issues. Okay, focus on encouraging behavior, then techniques of sleep talk, how do we do it, and a quick look. So now question answer sessions will take in the end. So now sleep talk कौन कर सकता है? Okay, so if you are not single, you are married, and if you have kids, sleep talk works effectively on kids. You are professional, you want to do sleep talk on yourself, you can do it. You want to do sleep talk on your spouse, you can still do it. Okay, so the magic, then you will see how spouse is converted to you. Okay, so this is a very important tool, huh? So usko अच्छे से सुनना, because sleep talk professional, emotional and your financial career के लिए you can use this tool effectively. It just changes your behavior pattern and then you'll see magic. I have implemented this sleep talk for myself, for my career, and on my kids. And today, whatever my child is completely, I would give this thing credit to sleep talk. Okay, I've been using this and I've shared this to many, many, many people. People have come back to me. This has worked brilliantly. I have even drafted sleep talks for people. Okay, so you need any help in drafting sleep talk, you all can connect to me. So let us understand what is sleep talk. Okay, so you go silently and you talk about the sleep talk to your child. Now how do you talk to yourself and how do you talk to your spouse? Okay, so what is sleep talk? Let us understand. So to understand this, so there is a conscious mind. Okay, conscious mind is that mind which does things in our conscious. So अभी मैं आपसे बात कर रही हूँ and I am doing this sleep talk session with you. I'm conscious. Say Siley introduced me, okay, to y'all. So Siley consciously introduced me. Okay, so Krupali ji, she spoke about the startups valuations and all. Consciously she spoke about that to us. So this is the conscious mind. A conscious mind is present, a conscious mind is awake, and a conscious mind knows, matlab we know what we are doing. That is conscious mind. Okay, subconscious mind is somewhere in our mind. Okay, is behind. So जैसे कंप्यूटर पे आप अभी ये प्रेजेंटेशन देख रहे हो, दिस इज कॉन्शियस. Okay, and in the background the computer is doing some programming when I'm pressing a key, and it's taking the file from the saved location and all, it's doing its programming. That is subconscious mind. Okay, so we have conscious mind and we have subconscious mind. Okay, and our subconscious mind plays a very important tool in doing sleep talk or even in affirmations. Okay, And then what is sleep talk? The sleep talk is when we tell our subconscious mind. Okay. So we tell something to our subconscious mind, but when to tell, that is important. So for that, let us understand thoda sa science. Okay. As chartered accountants, we wouldn't believe if nothing comes logical to us. Okay. We need things logically to understand because we're chartered accountants. So here, logically, let me explain you. We listen to radio, correct? How do we listen to radio? Hmm? Radio may, if we want to say listen to radio frequency, say 93.3, 93.9, whatever, 91.1 frequency, रेडियो मिर्ची आ गया, हमें सुनना है तो हम क्या करेंगे? We will tune in the frequency on our radio, correct? We'll tune in. कार में जाते जाते हम लोग उसको ट्यून करेंगे. We will match the frequency with the radio has with us. So there is no wire, but in air there are frequencies. Similarly, in our brain also there are frequencies. Okay, we have to tune in those frequencies. So what are those frequencies? So when our mind is active, when our mind is present, when our mind is awake, right now when I'm talking to you, okay, when we are attentive, externally attentive, we know what is happening, whether we are relaxed or not. Means our conscious mind is present. We are into the frequency of 12 to 35 hertz. Okay, so this is beta frequency. So in beta frequency, we are awake, our conscious mind is awake, and we know what is happening. Then the frequency of the brain reduces when we are about to sleep. Okay, so if you know, people say, our elders have always said कि when kids are around and kids are sleeping in the room, husband wife shouldn't talk loudly. Okay, why? Because they are listening. Even when they are sleeping, correct? So this is alpha frequency. This is between 8 to 12 hertz. In this, you are in the relaxed state, you are passive, your subconscious mind is active over here. Okay, then you go into deep sleep. Okay, like you're relaxed. आपको थोड़े थोड़े कभी कभी सपने भी आते हैं. Okay, little. That time you are into the theta state, or you are just sleeping calmly when you are meditating. You also go into 4 to 8 hertz, then into delta, that you are deep sleep completely, 0.5 to 4 hertz. And when it goes to 0, that means you are dead. So these are the frequencies. So now let us know, we've understood the science behind this. Okay. So now let's understand the behavioral issues. First, let us understand what are you going to change? Okay. Say you have a child who is nail biting, or even you are doing the nail biting. I've seen many elders doing this. Okay, elders doing this nail biting and all that stuff. Okay, so if you have this, so this is what lower confidence issues. Dusra, you have, say, kids are shouting, or having fights around, or you will even see spouses are fighting, or say you are fighting with your colleagues or something like that. Okay, so that time also you can identify. So first is you have to identify the behavioral issues. So these are the behavior which you can actually correct into the sleep talk. So it's very important that you identify them. Bedwetting. Okay, sometimes elders also bedwet, they don't say. So this is again when you're nervous and you are not confident, you bedwetting with the kids. Then when you're lying, you always want to boast. Okay, you always want to boast about something, you are lying. So this is again a behavioral issues. So then you feeling neglected, not only with the kids but even in the office. Say everybody is there, आज मिलेंगे हम लोग, आज ये करेंगे, okay, and then you are left out. Okay, so that time also this can be tackled. So say you always doing, don't do this and don't do that to your child, and the child feels this very stubborn. Okay, and they are not just listening to you, say your husband or your wife is also not listening to you, spouse is not listening to you. So these are kind of behavioral issues. You can really tackle this into sleep talk. Okay, overeating, junk food, behavioral issues. Okay, these are hormonal issues. This also can be tackled. You're shy, you're nervous, you don't know how to do the presentation. अब मैं कैसे किसी के सामने presentation करूँगा या करूँगी, okay? So even these behavioral issues you can really tackle into sleep talk. You are completely shy, you are very nervous and you don't want to talk to anybody, okay? You're always on the gadget. The kids are always on the gadget. Your spouse is always on the gadget. Behavioral issues. This also can be tackled. How? Magic. Abhi pixie dust I will spray. I'll give you this magic. How? Okay. So stay tuned. First, let us identify the behavior. Your child is always on the laptop. Your husband is always working on the laptop. Your wife is always working, and they don't have time for you. Okay. Behavioral issues. You want to ask them to come, let's do real life thing, okay? क्या बार बार टीवी देखना है लैपटॉप देखना है, okay? Behavioral issues. So focus on behavior that you want to encourage. Again, you have understood the behavioral issues. Now you focus on the behavior that you want to encourage, okay? Like for example, for kids, if you want a good habits to encourage into your child, okay, even into your spouse, you want to encourage a good behavior. It's nothing wrong, okay? In laws, also you want to encourage behavioral issues. In your office, you want to encourage good behavior, okay? You can. Say you want good sleep. You want your child to have good sleep. You want to have a good sleep. You want your spouse to have a good sleep. You want, of course, I'm not going to talk about employees over here, okay? Reading habits, you want to inculcate reading habits into anybody, yourself, your kids, your spouse, anybody. Reading habits, yes. You want to inculcate sports, okay, exercises, yes. Then you want to focus on exercises again. With you are exercising, your child is not, child is exercising, you are not. You want to encourage this behavior, yes, you can, okay? Now how to do that? I will explain you with the kids first and then on yourself, kids or your spouse, okay? So you enter your room while they are fast asleep, okay? So if you have if anybody has kids, you would have noticed abhi bachcha soya hai, okay? Right now your child is sleeping and abhi abhi soya, deep sleeping. So that those 15 minutes is your stage, you know, that frequency when it has lowered down, where your subconscious mind is still active but your conscious mind has slept, is that time you enter the room, okay? And that time you go to your child's ear, and you tell something what I will tell you. You have to be consistent. आज स्लीप टॉक किया है, कल नहीं किया है, ऐसा नहीं चलेगा. You have to be consistent, okay? Secondly, you can incorporate this behavior when your child is asleep, अभी अभी सोया है और अब उठने वाला है. You know how do we understand कि अब ये उठने वाला है? When the child is moving, okay, continuously abhi morning mein, so you know you're going to get up. Your spouse is moving, okay, on the bed, you know it's going to get, they're going to get up, okay? So those 15 minutes, they are the frequency increases and they're still into the bed but they are moving, so you understand they're going to get up. At that time also you can do sleep talk, okay? Similarly, for yourself, also you can identify this time period before going to sleep, after going to sleep, and before waking up. You can identify this time frame, and you can put an alarm into your mobile, or you can just set up a timer onto your mobile. Not an alarm, but you can set up a timer on your mobile, and you can do this for yourself also. Okay, have to be consistent. You have to do it every day. Okay, for how many days? Do it at least for 21 days. Okay, 21 days is an effective way to build up your habits. Okay, but do it. I've done this consistently, and that's why I'm telling you on my experience. Then what you have to do, you have to say affirmations. इसलिए मैंने affirmations पहले किए थे. Okay, so you have to say affirmations. I've told you positive present tense. Okay, what you want, it has to be personal. Exactly, you have to tell that. You have to be very, 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 very exact. I'll give you certain examples. Then you have to preface the sleep talk. Means what? कभी भी आपको, if you're going to tell this to your child, you have to ready your child for this. Even if your child is 2 months old, 3 months old, 10 months old, 10 years old, 21 years old, 41 years old, you have to tell your child, I am going to do this sleep talk with you. You have to prepare your child for this. Okay. So, hello, Dottie, this is dad. Keep sleeping. I'm going to say some affirmations to you. Don't get up. बट ये पहले जब वो चाइल्ड जगा है तब एक बार चाइल्ड को बोल देना दैट आई एम गोइंग टू डू दिस विथ यू, सो द चाइल्ड व्हेन लिसन टू यू डोंट पैनिक एंड गेट अप. ओके, then affirm your love for them. Same thing, you do it for yourself also. You can affirm your love for yourself. I love myself. Okay, so you affirm your love to your child or to your spouse when doing this sleep talk. Then use positive phrases. Okay, Tommy is a kind and friendly boy. So let's see. So you have a shiny, beautiful, and healthy nails. If your child is continuously biting, you don't want him to bite its nail. You don't say Diva doesn't bite her nails. I'll say Diva has shiny, beautiful, healthy nails. Okay, you eat you love eating dal and vegetables. Your child is indulged into eating junk food, or your spouse is indulged into junk food, or you are indulged into junk food, then you would rephrase it in such a way. You love eating dal and vegetable, whatever you want to write, you can put just examples. You love eating green peas and they are your favorite. So this I had done for my daughter and she started eating green peas. Okay, you are soft spoken and everyone loves you. I've used this also and this has worked. Okay, you obey elders and most you obey elders the most and they love you. So you can use certain phrases like this. Okay, you are happy and a peaceful child and you smile always. Similarly, you can use something like this for your spouses or for yourself also. Okay, you always speak the truth and mama loves you. Okay, so you love to do exercises and every day you exercise for 1 hour. It's very, very important. You can tell this to yourself also. Okay, these are just an example. Okay, first you identify and then you're physically highly active child. So my daughter was born with very minimum hair, almost bald. Very ऐसे छोटे छोटे strands थे बस यहाँ पे, and I always wanted her to have beautiful long silky hair. So this was my positive statement which I had done. Long, thick, beautiful, dark black hair and all, shiny, silky. And she's connected to my husband more. So I written down. So you have to write down this, okay? And then we had spoken it to in her ears, and today she has it. So it works. So keep statement in the positive, in the present tense. I've told you about why present tense in affirmations. Okay. Then how much to say. Okay. So maybe you say this is for 15 minutes, not more than that, or not even 15 minutes. 5 minutes maybe ये हो जाता है. Say if you have 15 statements at a time, don't overboard it. Completely अपने को transformation नहीं करना है. आज रोबोट को भी किसी को ट्रांसफॉर्म करने के लिए भी टाइम लगता है. ओके, सो गो बाय 1 बिहेवियर, 2 बिहेवियर, 3 बिहेवियर एट अ टाइम एंड एक कॉमन बिहेवियरल ग्राउंड रखो. ओके, and what you do is you repeat this for 15 to 20 times. Okay, every day for 21 days you do this. You write it down into your notebook, this affirmations, and you pen it down and you talk. Okay, say it for 15-20 times. Okay, repeat the sentences and you will see magic happening. Okay, so any questions to anyone? I'm open for questions. You can have your personal questions also. Yes. Do you all have any questions for this? Yes. Uh, yes, Tanvi, you have any questions?
Uh, no, ma'am.
You
Does
can
anyone
have
have?
personal questions also. No, no worries.
I would actually like to know, like when you're talking about positive affirmations, it's not that easy always to think
Correct.
that positively. So,
Correct.
how do you do the time to do it? Like how
So,
do you make your mindset ready for that?
correct. So you start journaling. Start journaling. Maintain a journal, a book. Okay, small. And you start writing. First, you identify what you want to say. Identify the problem areas. Okay. Write down that statement. Look at it. What have you written? एंड हम लोग जैसे ऑडिट करते हैं, करेक्ट, तो ऑडिट में हम फ्लॉज निकालते हैं, है ना, एरर्स निकालते हैं. सो व्हाट इज द एरर ओवर हियर इज नेगेटिव वर्ड्स. ओके, look whether have you written any negative words, then delete that negative word and then read the statement, because God is going to say tatastu after reading that statement. Okay, so just see whether it is putting some meaning or not. So positive तो समझ में आया, करेक्ट, प्रेजेंट टेंस समझ में आया. So what happens is, if you're going to keep telling this to yourself every day, your subconscious mind is definitely going to start believing it. वो RS system जो अपने brain में है, it will start working. Okay, but एक दिन बोल के नहीं होता है work, dear. You have to
Yeah,
every day say it, every day say it. Okay.
you have to make a habit.
Yeah, it happens. So today I have been doing this with my daughter a lot. She never knew no. She never knew not. Okay, so when she was small, वो सपोज मैंने अगर उसको दूध नहीं पिलाया तो वो बोलती थी, मम्मा आपने मुझे आज दूध क्यों पिलाया. तो मुझे से सोचना पड़ता था, यार मैंने ऐसे क्या किया जो मुझे ऐसा बोल रही है. एंड देन आई रियलाइज, ओ गॉड, शी डजंट नो नो वर्ड. तो दैट मीन्स शी इज टेलिंग कि आपने मुझे दूध क्यों नहीं पिलाया. Okay, and today she's a national champ, sports and all. It is, I have done this with her. So you believe, your subconscious mind starts believing. Even for exams also I have told this to myself. Like before exam, बहुत panic, stress. I still remember those days. तो exam के पहले take a deep inhalation. क्या होगा, ज्यादा हम ज्यादा फेल हो गए, उससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं होने वाला, स्ट्रेस नहीं लेना है, पढ़ाई की है सब, just apply that, write down, nothing will happen. Okay, so you are intelligent, you are smart, you are so I keep telling this to myself, I'm intelligent, I'm smart, I know things, and I can do it. Okay, so I keep telling this, so you have to keep telling this, keep repeating. So if you believe it, it will happen.
Correct. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
Uh,
Anything
anyone
else?
else has a question?
Have you ever tried saying like this something to yourself?
I've tried saying to myself, लेकिन वो habit नहीं बनती. Like it doesn't happen again and again. So I think unless you do that, like you said, it doesn't really work.
तो
Like,
आपने एक ही बार बोला होगा, दो बार बोला होगा?
that's what.
हाँ, नहीं, you have to continuously. आप अगर एक दिन ब्रश करोगे, दूसरे दिन ब्रश करोगे, 4 दिन नहीं करोगे तो क्या होगा? कीड़े जमा हो जाएंगे दांत में.
Correct.
You have to every day do it. So this is also like the way we cleanse ourselves. बॉडी रूटीन होता है अपना रोज, वैसा एक माइंड रूटीन होना चाहिए रोज. ओके, हम लोग क्यों बोलते हैं भगवान के यहाँ पे हाथ जोड़ना है, और हम लोग हाथ जोड़ के क्या करते हैं we just say thank you God for giving me all this every day. So if you see people who are doing puja every day, so they're giving gratitude. Okay, so they're forming a habit of believing into existence and gratitude and the positive statement. So that forms your belief. Yes.
Absolutely right. I don't think anyone else has any questions. So thank you, Sheetal Sethi ji. You were amazing. And thank you for sharing these valuable thought processes with us. Because not everyone thinks so positively. And I think positive thinking is the first step towards a better life. And normally we are so busy with our own lives that we are so involved and so like we get so stressed about everything that's happening that we cannot do justice. So I think these affirmations would really help. So thank
Yes,
you
we
so
have to just believe one thing. If there's a problem,
much.
there is a
Thank
solution.
you.
Okay. If there is a
Correct.
problem, there is a solution. If there's darkness, there is light. There are always two
Yeah,
sides of the coin. Yeah, thank you
absolutely
so
right.
much. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
to all the listeners as well for your patient listening. Thank you. And happy Diwali to everyone at once.
Yes, happy Diwali. Yes, yes, happy Diwali to everyone.
Thank you.